Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Zoom Info's VP of Marketing OS and Emerging Products, Ben Daters. Ben, perhaps you could just take a moment to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stephen. Good to see everybody. Welcome. Very excited to speak about ABM and the metrics that matter today. Just maybe a quick, brief introduction and background on myself. I've been in MarTech for going on about 15 years now. Been with Zoom Info, heading up their ABM practice for a little over a year and a half, almost 2 years. And prior to that, I helped start my own company called People AI, is in the AI sales and marketing analytics space. Prior to that, I did 6 years at Marketo, where I grew up as a true BDR on the front lines, making phone calls, and interesting enough, sat right out in front of John Miller's office. He actually hired me. So I had to interview with the godfather of marketing automation and one of the thought leaders in the ABM space. So really excited to talk about my experiences over the last 15 years and where ABM is going and some of the very exciting things that we're doing over at Zoom Info of go-to-market collaboration and bringing AI to the go-to-market.
That's awesome, Ben. Thanks for the intro. You're perfect for this session. Delighted to be hosting you. So let me just quickly recap what we'll be going over. So we're going to be decoding ABM in today's marketing landscape, pinpointing metrics that measure real success, and peering into ABM's future with technology's helping hand. And if we have some time, we'll do some Q&A. If not, please do put your questions regardless into chat. Our email addresses are going to be on the last slide, so feel free to reach out to us if we can't get to those in the time that we have today. So I know Ben talked about 15 years of marketing experience. So not to date myself, but I've been in marketing for over 20 years. And when I think about ABM, I think back to what I really call targeted marketing, whether that was one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many, and essentially going from the most personalized outreach to leveraging common characteristics. And I know, Ben, as someone who is spending actually a lot of time with marketing leaders across multiple companies, when you think about ABM, what's your perspective on what ABM means in today's context and how it's shaping marketing strategies?
Yeah, talking to CMOs and revenue leaders, I think kind of diagnosing the challenges that they're facing today is most important to figure out kind of what our approach is and where we're going. So time and time again on every conversation that I'm having with CMOs and revenue leaders, like two main problems. Everyone's struggling to create pipeline and drive growth. And when you mix those two elements of growth and struggling to create pipeline in a constrained budget environment, it becomes really difficult. So historically, measuring lead volumes has been top priority. Everyone's all in on top of the funnel, lead gen, and driving a ton of leads over to sales. But today, that's not yielding the right outcomes. And I think most CMOs will agree with that you need to consider new approaches. And the market, I think, is really warming up to this, is maturing around this evolution of ABM and how to appropriately implement it. So the emphasis that I'm hearing and seeing being implemented is really starting to identify hyper-target accounts. So not as much as targeted marketing, but hyper targeting the right accounts that are in market for your products and services and getting laser focused to engage buying groups and personalization towards the personas that need to be involved in your buying cycles and in your deals. So as companies think about that, the data first approach is crucial to start with the data, signals to action, and really start to align all of those different elements around your strategy. And so I think you'll see that within kind of as we go through today's presentation, a lot of those elements will define more closely and really start to get in the weeds a little bit more around those metrics and how to define those strategies.
Yeah. And when you think about companies' approaches, is there like a targeted account list that they're really going off? I mean, obviously we put kind of one to one, but when you think of a targeted account list, do you see people going after maybe like the top 2,000 accounts, the top 200 accounts? What are you seeing and hearing?
Yeah,
I
I mean,
guess it varies a lot from company to company.
yeah, it does. I think, as account-based marketing, account-based experience gains momentum, the the shift and the bulk of marketing technology spend is actually moving away from the how, which is historically marketing automation platforms, email services, and more towards the what of targeting, qualifying, and winning accounts, and which companies are actually looking inside of their CRM for more accurate data on how to properly describe the targeting aspects of what you're talking about, Stephen. So I think, as we go through this, it's not necessarily about, is it 100 accounts? Is it 2,000 accounts? As much as it is about the exercise with sales to define the targeted accounts and ensuring that we have full agreement from the top down on who and what we are going to target and agreeing on that as part of our strategy.
Yeah, I think that a couple of really key things you mentioned was alignment with sales on targets and working hand in hand with sales. This really is a joint effort between those both. So, when I think of moving into key metrics, I think that traditional marketing often focuses on like broad metrics like lead volume, also pipeline, like web traffic and conversion rates. And in my experience, the metrics to measure success for ABM campaigns are necessarily different. So, from your vantage point, what are the key metrics that we should be focused on to measure the success of ABM campaigns and programs in general?
Yeah, I think, starting with with kind of what, how, and how we go about this process to define them. There's not a, I mean, there's tons and tons of metrics that,
Right.
you know, businesses and marketers are looking at constantly, but what are the right ones? I think that comes back to kind of the strategy, right? So highly recommend that you get in a room, you lock yourself in a room with your go-to-market stakeholders, and you define that together for your business. Each business is very different and should be measured as so. So define and set the right targets, the right expectations, and the right metrics. So whatever the ultimate target or the objectives are, working backwards to fall into those is really important. So if your business is heavily saturated down market and you're looking to move up market, traditionally you probably rely heavily on lead volume and your initiative to fill the top of the funnel. But as your initiative is to move up market, that is going to mean a lot of new changes and a lot of new things for your business. So the first and foremost thing is to set the right expectations that this isn't going to happen overnight. And so the time element is really important. So it's going to take time, money, resources. And once things are actually starting to run and operate, the expectations that you've set up front means that all of the leads that you guys used to be getting and the filling the top of the funnel, those are going to decrease. You're going to see a dramatic shift in the amount of volume that your sales team is getting. So setting those expectations up front is really important. But in return, what will happen is the amount of qualified buyers within your hyper target accounts that are the right level, the right executive level within the buying groups will actually increase. And so you should see an increase in the qualified accounts and the qualified buyers come inbound to your sales team. So as you think about account success, and defining what that means, really start to figure out the resources, the time, and the spend behind these programs. A really, really crucial one that I love to talk a lot about is the spend per account. And so this is why, having a list of, 10,000 target accounts probably doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you have 10,000 accounts and your budget is, let's say $1 million, your spend per account is very limited. And so, interesting enough, if you look at how ABM providers have historically charged or licensed their technology, there used to be no caps on the number of accounts or the number of campaigns that you can create within these platforms. However, what we were seeing is that the spend per account was extremely low, often south of $1 per account. And so if you think about moving up market in the enterprise, how can you expect to see results spending less than $1 targeting a large enterprise corporation? And so by limiting the number of campaigns and the number of accounts that are within your ABM program, you should see the metric that we're talking about, spend per account, actually increase, which should yield better results. And so thinking about that as a North Star is a really interesting benchmark, as well as things like return on ad spend, very similar. So if we spend $1, we get $3 back, and really thinking about that as an ABM strategy of return on ad spend should be very, very heavily focused on brand and content marketing, because as you move up market in this theme that we're talking about, you're going to need to educate buyers and really provide a lot of thought leadership and brand marketing, so your buyers are aware that you do offer products and services that they might not have been aware of before.
Yeah, there's that spend per account is a really interesting metric, and one that I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about, but it's completely intuitive. There's a couple things you added around not just account engagement, but also exec engagement as a metric. But it does seem that there's potentially quite a lot of change management that you need to bring to the exercise as well, in terms of setting expectations. Where have you seen sort of success or maybe you don't have to talk about where it hasn't worked, but what are the keys to bringing along those people on that journey when telling someone they can have less leads, or whatever that message might be? How's that
Yeah, I
worked?
mean, I think it comes back to results, right? And I think, you can either have 100 leads and, 2 to 5% of those leads might be qualified and they might turn into 25K deals, or would you rather have 25 highly qualified executives where 40% of those turn into 100K deals in your pipeline? And so the quality of your pipeline and the size of those deals coming into the pipeline, things like average time to close, all of those things will start to improve by getting more qualified buyers at the right executive level and departments and levels into your pipeline. So those will speed up other conversions that sometimes are needing to be improved. So as you think a lot about those types of setting expectations, I think, again, it all comes back down to the data. And so looking at your current metrics around average deal size, time to close, how many people are in a buying decision, and starting to really look at what does it mean on the upmarket motion, and being able to see, well, let's take a couple of deals that we know we've won that are kind of the gold standard, and start to look at why those deals close, what their makeup is, and start to mimic our success after them. So again, coming back to the data and using that against the rest of your coverage in your ICP, making sure that you have the right buyers, all the coverage, the third-party data that you need to fill a lot of those gaps in this strategy.
Yeah, I know we've got this as our next slide, Ben. I feel we've still touched a little bit on this already, just with the stakeholders. Um, is um, is there anything that we need to add? I feel we've covered quite a lot of like the stakeholders and the timing and what's required, but
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I think the message here is it starts from the top down.
yeah,
Complete buy-in from the CEO and the board level down. If you don't have that level of commitment from your CEO and board down, then this is going to be very hard to change management and drive the type of behavior and expectations that you need within the org. So you got to evolve the entire company towards this new methodology and account-based approach. And everyone needs to be in lockstep with how this is going to be a company-changing program, not just something that marketing is over here spending a ton of money on and hoping to see results and driving a strategic initiative for the business. And so, starts CEO down and then marketing carrying the torch, but in lockstep with sales. And sales is tough to get a lot of change management, and they're going to be victims of doing what has worked and be a little bit resistant to that change. And so bringing them into the conversation and starting with some of the exercises that we talked about with getting them the power to select their target accounts. Sure, you want to give them the parameters, the right data, but it should be sales who actually owns the selection of these target accounts and really start to give them a clear ownership of the program. And so, we've seen a lot of value with our customers that have, rolled out a similar approach. And one of our customers, Tide Rock, their champion and admin for Marketing OS, our ABM platform, ZoomInfo, said the greatest value ZoomInfo has brought us in is the opportunity for alignment. We're all working off one data set. Our goals are aligned and our efforts are housed in one ecosystem has made a significant impact. And so that's an example of where sales, marketing, and the go-to-market comes together under one unified approach to yield the right results for the business.
yeah, that's great insight. I do know working with an ex-colleague of mine, Brian Power, when we uh, were looking at target account and bringing in a platform such as Marketing OS and ZoomInfo, that there was we had to introduce the benefits to the SDR, the BDRs, the account reps, the account executives, and walk them through the tool that we were using to get that buy-in so they could really see kind of be aware of the signals, how they were different, and the value that it was bringing. So there was quite a lot of change management in terms of marketing operations, working with the sales teams and walking and stepping them through, but incredibly well received.
Yeah, my prior company, we had rolled out an ABM platform, and sales has been banging on the desk. We want intent. We want to see where our accounts are doing on the website, what they're researching, and they were asking for it for months. We finally brought the platform in and took months and months to implement. Once we actually implemented it, sales was really excited for that first month, and then they stopped looking at the information where they needed to. They got back into different workflows. So really looking at sales adoption and workflows of where they start and end their day is hypercritical to marketing success in this program. And so buy-in, but also really understanding how they're going to adopt and integrate this into their workflows is something that needs to be really closely monitored and brought forward with other stakeholders in the business, like sales enablement and others that are responsible for adoption of sales.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we kind of like takes us into sort of like the technology side of this a little bit, Ben. So, and I've no doubt everyone attending this webinar is aware of the amount of marketing technology that's available to them now. I think I saw a stat of like, enterprise companies have like 121 subscriptions or something crazy. And on May the 2nd, which I think has been designated International Martech Day, I think that started a couple of years ago. HubSpot's Scott Brinker unveiled the latest edition of his marketing technology landscape. And so from just under about 10,000 in 2022, the number of solutions is now over 11,000, and that's like 7,000% growth over the space of like 12 years. So kind of like a mind-boggling amount of technology out there. And
Yeah,
so
those are eye charts. Those are always fun. I feel like everybody who ever looks at one of those immediately tries to find their own company
they
and
do.
never find your own company on those damn things.
Or if you do, it doesn't seem to be where you think it should be.
Yeah,
So it's not in the
exactly.
category that you really want to be in. So yeah, so I mean, so with so much noise and such diverse landscape, how do we cut through the noise, Ben? How can technology best support the measurement of ABM impact? And then not to throw three questions at you, but maybe then we can touch on what you see as a future of ABM and what's coming down the road, and what we should perhaps be anticipating.
Yeah. Cutting through the noise is always tough, obviously. And then we talk a little bit about that, but coming back around again, like technology can support the initiative that a company is rolling out here as you make that shift towards ABM, but in no way, shape, or form can be the crutch of the strategy itself. And technology is not the answer to this initiative. Again, go back to everything else that we've talked about in alignment and bringing on stakeholders and following what you are trying to achieve with this. Technology is not going to be the answer, but it can definitely be a vehicle to really help take you there. And so I think the reasons why technology should be part of that strategy, not the strategy, is around third-party data. You take a look inside of your CRM systems today, and you only probably have 30-40% of the total addressable market, let alone your ICP. And so using third-party data, often leveraged with ABM platforms, will help fill coverage gaps, looking at things like intent, buying signals, having the ability to create dynamic audiences, and having a multi-channel orchestration to be able to fuel a lot of the automation of how this data will integrate through all of your downstream systems and over to sales. So I think, as you look at technology like third-party data, coming back to the data is crucial. And then from a measurement perspective, attribution, flexibility, and reporting, all of that is table stakes from a marketer's perspective. But I'll be the first to admit, technology today around ABM, that is, from Gartner and Forrester, when we meet with them, that is still the most difficult thing that a marketer has trouble with an ABM platform doing, is proving true ROI from the cost of the platform. And so I think it's important to have access to the raw data right now to be able to leverage that within other BI platforms, BI, anything like that. So being able to have the raw data is crucial. So you can have that flexibility or push it to data science so they can help. And then we've seen a lot of advancements with GPT, and we have some really, really skilled and excellent delivery managers on the marketing OS side that are doing some really cool things with GPT bots to actually input a lot of this raw data and start to suggest different analysis and insights based on things like intent, what types of campaigns you should be running, account spend, all of those things. Now we can start to put in the models and get recommendations back from some of our bots that we've actually created within GPT. So seeing a lot of really advanced things that our teams are doing today that I think the rest of the market is still catching up in.
Yeah. What does the future look like then?
Well, if I had a crystal ball, Stephen,
Well, or maybe I should put some time, maybe don't say, in 10 years, but maybe in the next couple, I mean, when you think about even something like ChatGPT, which
yeah,
was
I
back in
think
November 22, right? I mean, it's pretty recent. And you know, I can't remember if it was I don't think it was Altman, but you know, the quote around, you know, what you see today is going to seem quirky in 6 months' time, right? I mean, the pace of change is really quite phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about it as like the self-driving autonomous cars and like think about that in the lens of marketing, so and marketing capabilities. So the emergence of true self-driving marketing capabilities function like large language models. Instead of predicting the next word, they will actually predict the optimal interaction of each buyer. And so marketers and like what role you will play in this is a pivotal focus and ability to train and tune the models and set the strategic goals and constraints of those models. And so fundamental kind of difference in marketing automation and account-based marketing. I think it's going to radically transform how technology plays into this. And so I think things like Copilot, which ZoomInfo is announcing, is true AI-powered solution that's like unifying the go-to-market data, applying this Gen AI to sift through the noise, identify the insights sellers want, and then provide this level of self-driving decision making behind the channels that we're operating in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this has been fascinating, Ben, and I know we're coming up to kind of the last 3 minutes or so. So we had a couple of questions in. But is there anything you wanted to sort of just like round off, Ben, before we maybe
I was
question?
going to make a bold prediction.
Good, do it.
Don't take any bets on this or anything. And
Yeah,
again, this isn't investing advice or anything like that.
yeah,
Just a bold statement. But I think growing up in marketing automation, as I did, like that's a must-have, and I think it will continue to be a must-have. I think marketing automation has tried to incorporate some account-based marketing technology capabilities, but they've failed, quite frankly. And so my bold prediction is that account-based marketing technology is actually going to acquire and consume marketing automation. And instead of ABM consuming, or sorry, instead of marketing automation consuming ABM, we're actually going to see the shift and the backwards happen where ABM is going to consume marketing automation.
Mm. Yeah. That's well, we'll see if you're right. I'm sure you probably are. There's thank you for the time, Ben. There's one of the questions we got, which is kind of broad, maybe we can take it back to ABM, was what metrics would you suggest for the SaaS companies?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about
Yeah.
some of those around account spend, but I think pipeline attribution, not necessarily defined to sales-led pipeline attribution or sales source or marketing source, but get behind one pipeline goal and stop fighting amongst sales or marketing-led pipeline and have the company run towards one pipeline goal and everyone work towards that is crucial. And so I think that is the North Star. Pipeline cures all, and that would be the major one that I would focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. I might throw in sort of net retention rate, sort of like customer lifetime value as well. Just as you think about measuring the effectiveness long term as of your ABM programs. So especially for a SaaS company too. So yeah, this has been fascinating. I know we've got a bunch more questions, but I think we're at time, Ben. I want to thank everyone that showed up today. This has been extremely insightful, Ben. Thank you for the time, and look forward to maybe hosting another one in the time being. Let me just put up the slide so if people want to contact you or me after this, please feel free to do that. So thank you very much. And Brianne, I don't know, do I turn this back over to you?
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.